Hello, my name is Botha, and I'm a member of the SAFF Film Selection Committee. All proceeds of our festival go to Education Without Borders, a charitable organization that provides educational opportunities for at-risk learners in South Africa and Canada. And the proceeds for screening Mbira Talks goes to Education Without Borders as well as Ubuntu Learning Village. I'm joined today by Adrienne Amato and Dr. Moyo Mutamba. Thank you so much for joining me. They're here to talk about their fantastic film, Mbira Talks. Adrienne and Moyo, would you mind giving us a short introduction of yourselves? We can start with Adrienne.
Okay. I grew up in Zimbabwe and currently live in Toronto. And I'm the director for Mbira Talks, and I'm keeping it short. The director and producer of Mbira Talks.
Fantastic. And Moya?
Thank you, Marie. My name is Moyo Mutamba. I was born in Zimbabwe, and I am the founder and executive director of Ubuntu Learning Village in Zimbabwe. I also live in Toronto. I've been in Toronto for almost 20 years now, and where I work as a mediator, as a workshop facilitator, conflict transformation specifically. And also I'm a father with 3 children now here in Toronto, and a musician. I play Mbira, and I also tell folk stories from Zimbabwe.
Do a lot. Maybe we can say how we met. Is that
Yes,
a good?
please.
Yeah,
We-
so you always know the time, but I met Moyo how many years ago, Moyo?
That's officially 22 years now.
Okay, so he was playing Mbira on a street corner downtown, and I heard the Mbira, and I went over and asked him if he was from Zimbabwe, and we started to speak, and then we exchanged numbers, and I invited him to come over to my house to the garden, and usually people don't follow up with things, but he followed up, and that's when our friendship began, and so it was a long time ago now.
So it sounds sort of like fate, I feel like, because
Aw.
you stumbled upon each other. That's
We
amazing.
stumbled upon each
Oh,
other.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. We can think of it as fate,
Mm.
or we can think of it as an intention to connect and build relationships. And
it's
I
true.
prefer the latter.
Yeah, and also we followed up on that, which said something about us, because that happens so much, especially when you've moved to other places. You meet people, you exchange numbers, and people don't follow through. So I think, yeah, there was a sense of intention of creating community and a relationship. Yeah, well put, Moyo.
That's beautiful. I love that. Okay, well, that's actually a great sort of segue into my first question for Adrienne. What inspired you to create Mbira Talks? And what personal connection do you have to the Mbira?
Well, growing up in Zim, my life was probably totally separate than Moyo's, so I didn't have any knowledge of Mbira growing up as a white Zimbabwean. But when I went, I did my first documentary way back in '89 in Zimbabwe, and it was about domestic workers taking care of white children, like Zimbabwean domestic workers, that relationship. And I looked around trying to find, I always loved the sound of Mbira. So I wanted to find an Mbira player to do music for the film. And I went and listened to a whole bunch of people. And then the person who really I connected with and was moved by was Ambuya Stella Chiweshi, who is like the queen of Mbira music from Zimbabwe, who passed away, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago now, maybe more. Anyway, so I connected with her, and that started kind of my love for Mbira. And she's actually the one who planted the seed of doing a film about Mbira, but more specifically about the sacredness of it and the indigenous knowledge and teachings that come from playing the instrument. So she's really the source of inspiration for it all.
Wow, that's amazing. And
Can I
then,
add something?
yes,
Yeah.
please, go ahead.
Yeah. And it also happens that Mbura Chueshe is officially my first Mbira teacher.
Wow.
Yes, and also the first Mbira and Deze is the god that you amplify the Mbira with,
Yeah.
also was a gift from her.
Wow. Wow. So yeah, so that ties
Different times.
into my question for you, Moyo, about when you first wanted to start playing Mbira in Toronto in 2007, you said. Is that how your journey started?
Well, I started learning in Peterborough around 2002, but I didn't have my own Mbira.
Okay.
But my first Mbira was with Mbuya Chueshe, and the songs that I would say like are foundational to my Mbira playing,
Yeah.
two of them, Mahororo and Nemam Sasa, I learned from her. And the Mbira that really inspired me to, or helped me to keep it going was
Yeah.
from her.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
And how,
interesting. I mean, sorry, there's a real different quality because I remember when I was listening to all these Mbira players in Zimbabwe, a lot of was just like dance music. It was really fast. And when I went to Mbuya Chiweshi's home, like it just captivated me in a whole other way. It was like a much more spiritual, like sacred kind of way of approaching it. I don't know if that's fair to say, but that's what I felt.
Yeah, and as a Mbira teacher, because she was so invested in the cultural aspects and the spiritual aspects of the Mbira, that foundation for me was critical to my own relationship with Mbira. So it's not just an instrument. It is an instrument in the sense that it's a thing that produces sound, but it is not an instrument also in the sense that it is like a text that has knowledge, that has stories, and that connects us to the ancestors.
Mhm.
And this is the message that I carry wherever I go teaching the Mbira.
Mhm. And you teach or have taught your children as well. It was very, very moving to see them play and talk about it. And my other question for you was, living in Toronto with your children, how do you integrate your Zimbabwean culture into everyday life and ensure that it remains prominent for them and for you as well?
Yeah. So when you say culture, I am assuming you are talking about food, you're talking about a way of being,
Mm.
the way you conduct yourself.
And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think also your spirituality.
Yes,
And
so
yeah,
spirituality, music,
yes.
stories, food. So
Mhm.
Language.
Language.
language, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I do all of those.
Mhm.
Right? I speak my language to my children. I teach them Mbira. They both of the older ones play.
Mhm.
I cook them food from home.
Mhm.
So their first introduction to food is food from Zimbabwe, and they continue eating it, and it's basically their home food, so to speak.
Mhm.
I grow food, which is what I grew up with. So just this idea that you take care of yourself through growing food and gathering food,
Mhm.
developing those survival skills.
Mhm.
I tell them stories. I have a practice of telling my children stories at bedtime. I do not read a book. I'll tell them folk stories from Zimbabwe. And for two reasons. One is we are uh, primarily an oral culture.
Mhm.
The knowledges that I have um, are transmitted from our ancestors through oral means. It's a way of learning that is powerful and relational. So instead of reading a book, I tell them stories.
I love
Even
that.
my 10-year-old cannot sleep properly without me telling him a story now.
Aw,
That's amazing. I really
nice.
love that. Um, Okay, Adrienne, I'm going to move on to the second question that I have for you, which is gearing towards the filmmaking a little bit. In this scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in the film, actually, where Moyo tours the ruins and talks about the three C's of colonization. Um, there's a scene that follows after that with landscapes overlaid with prayer and song. Can you talk about that moment and how you
Mhm.
put that together, how you structured that?
Hmm. Well, it's interesting. I think like that is a really pivotal scene because for, we can go, we'll talk about the themes of the film, but I think like, growing up in Zimbabwe, like Great Zimbabwe was really, that was the kind of peak of colonial propaganda. It was always like, or the views, like kind of indoctrinating racism. It was always like Africans or Zimbabweans couldn't have built it. It was built by Phoenicians. And I think Moyo says that in there. So it's kind of symbolic of all the false teachings that you grow up with and how you're indoctrinated with all of those beliefs. So I really wanted to film there, but I also wanted to go back and see it through a different way, like a
Mm.
different lens through Moyo and his relationship with it. So, you plan things in a film, but there's always these moments that are unplanned that are incredible magic because when we went there, I didn't know that Moyo's clan or his ancestors were from there. And so they had like a direct link all the way back to that space. I didn't know that, so I discovered that he was speaking on film, which was powerful. And also when we got there, we got permission, and I was going to just get a guide when we got there to take us around. But we ended up getting this woman, Melissa, who's in the film, who was incredible. That was just luck. That was just like amazing serendipity. So we got her, and the energy between Moyo and her, they were also from the same clan. They were both from the Moyo clan,
Yeah.
and they just connected. They really connected. So something really special happened there. So, even though it's planned, there's always these magical, like, or special, like unplanned elements that come into play. And I think it's interesting with her, she got really affected by meeting Moyo and doing the film. I don't know,
Yeah.
Moyo, can you speak to that? Like how that kind of inspired her? It's interesting, just the effect when you make a
Yeah,
documentary.
yeah, yeah. So when we met, she was very Christian, like many Zimbabweans at this point because of the spiritual colonization. But so we started talking, and in our conversations, she started really appreciating culture, the culture of Zimbabwe. She started looking at Great Zimbabwe from a cultural perspective, as opposed to this historical. This used to be this thing in the past, and now you can see how people used to build these structures with stones and all these things, right? That very historical, um, anthropological, archaeological approach to culture. And we continued to be in conversation. At one point, she then got a scholarship to go to Europe. I'm forgetting the country, to do her master's. And I she needed some money, so I gave her some money to support her learning journey. She went to Europe, and now she is in New Brunswick, where she continues to do work around historical sites, but from a cultural perspective. And she also focuses on the role of women in
Wow.
maintaining and supporting culture through these sites. And we continue to
Amazing.
be close. And she's now like one of the board members of Ubuntu Global Village, which is the nonprofit that supports Ubuntu Learning Village from Canada.
I mean, it's amazing. Like this is a thing that's not spoken about documentary a lot, but because you're like going into like people's lives, and there's a certain effect that the film has on people who are also involved. That yeah, it has like a powerful impact, I think. And with her, like we were just like, can we have a guide? And it's like she just was the person, and immediately the two of you were like blah 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 in the most beautiful way. So yeah, those are I think every film I've made, every documentary I've made, there's been those kind of beautiful effects that you don't plan that happen.
Yeah.
You
Maybe the next film should be about her too.
know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She just finished a second master's, actually. I think she's gonna go
Wow.
to a PhD. Uh,
Wow,
but
amazing.
yeah, it's really just incredible to see the transformation
Yeah.
and the deepening with their own connection to a culture that
Yeah.
happened because of the film.
I really love that whole scene too.
It's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
beautiful.
And I think it makes you look at the earth also in a different way and the history in a different way, like you're saying, Moyo. It's like
Yeah.
living, it's a continuation. It's not
Mhm. No, it's absolutely gorgeous.
separate
And
thing.
um, speaking of documentary filmmaking, and we've spoken about this scene now and positives and surprises. What were some of the challenges that you both can speak to this that you faced? Creative, logistical, financial.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
mean, this film took so long. It was a real labor of love. It was so hard to get any funding. And it was made, on a pretty small budget. I'm really appreciative that Moyo stayed the course for so long because it was really over like a 10-year period.
Wow.
And, there was many obstacles in filming in Zimbabwe, getting permission to film. The first time we were supposed to go, I'd gotten permission from the media commission, and then like I think it was 1 or 2 days before we were supposed to fly, they rescinded it with no really reason given.
Oh,
So
good.
that was like a big obstacle. So there were many obstacles, but mostly financial and getting permission. I guess I could have done it in a non um, official way, but I wanted to do it that way. Um, and I think also just the challenge of because we filmed over so long, trying to find a framework
Mm.
um, of putting it together because it was like, all the different changes of hairstyle over 10 years and like growth and changes in life. And, of course, that was the whole process of editing and trying to really tease out what the main things were that what I wanted to say, and then like kind of trying to make it into a cohesive story. And I think the fire scene in Toronto where Moyo's with Kuda again, that was a gift. I knew we were filming, didn't know it was Kuda's 18th birthday, and that made it so
Yeah.
special,
Yeah.
and then that I think really tied together the whole story, but that came really late in the game. I don't know if there's any what challenges.
Yeah. I, my perspective, because I was not directing or producing the film, I did not experience challenges in it because my role was being asked questions and responding to questions.
Yeah.
So I think it was so easy for me. And culturally, I think, not I think, but culturally, we learn to be okay with slowness,
True that.
right?
Yeah.
And which is a little bit different than to maybe the Western sort of investment in efficiency and speed. So to me, I'm like, okay, it's gonna take the time that it needs to take. And I think that's what I kept on telling you, Adrienne. It's
Yeah,
gonna
you were
take the time
amazing
that
that
it
way.
needs to take, you know.
Yeah.
And I actually appreciate that it took that long
Mm.
because
Yes.
I do think that the story itself sort of covers a critical period in my life in terms of, and I don't know if this is in the film, but just in terms of like, the changing of relationships, but also when we started filming, we're at the early stages of building Ubuntu Learning Village.
Mm-hmm.
By the editing, and like 10 years later, the space has changed so much that you can actually see the ways that we have grown in terms of the physical space itself, what we have, but also we've grown in terms of what we have learned and the kind of activities that we are engaged in that supports the community.
Yeah, I think also the time it took, I think it's become more and more relevant the themes of like, and the whole movement of connecting to indigeneity and into indigenous knowledge systems, like just as a way of, I mean, it seems more and more important now because it provides like a way of, like a sustainable, more sustainable way of living, or like, and a kindness, like beliefs that are like kindness to the earth, to each other, to animals. And I think all indigenous cultures share that, you know? So I feel like it's like as the time went on, it became more and more relevant, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, Moyo, could you actually talk a little bit more about Ubuntu Learning Village and everything that you do there, and what subjects the children learn, and how often you go back, what your role in it is?
Mm. So I founded Ubuntu. The idea of it was in around 2010. And at that point, I had done some work in Mondoro with Kufunda Learning Village, where I did fundraising for their first childcare center for children who were affected by HIV. And that was in 2003. And so I developed that relationship with Mondoro, developed that relationship with people at Kufunda. And when I went to Zimbabwe and visited Kufunda, I saw the good work that we're doing in the community. I've always been biased towards culture, art. So I said, okay, I also wanted to create a space. However, I wanted it to focus on culture and art. So in 2011, that's when I bought the land, which is now at about like 80 hectares of land. And at the center of it was just learning, learning through experimenting, through doing. That's why the learning village piece is there in the name, because that's actually the main purpose of it. But also it signifies our humility, that we are people who do not have the answers to all the problems that we're trying to solve. But we remain committed to continuing to asking questions and trying proposals that can bring change in a practical way, not just talking about it. Yeah. So that's kind of like a brief history, but I think at a deeper level, I was motivated by a desire for social change. I grew up in a family of parents who were part of the liberation struggle in a direct way, and so they taught me the ethos of community, of investing and engaging in struggle to change the country. That was their work. The country. I think of it as to change myself, to change the community, because I truly believe that at an individual level, internally, I am sort of a fractal of the whole. I'm a microcosm of whatever is happening in the larger system. And as Adrienne Marie Brown puts it, right, what you practice at an what is the quote? What you practice at the small scale set the pattern for the larger system. So that change, like change in myself, change in the community. And Ubuntu Learning Village is not like this big movement in the sense that you can think of movement, because it's not a lot of people. However, then the ideas, the practices that we're engaging with are big. And what we know is that if we can do what we do, be able to tell the story, that is also going to affect many people. And we're seeing that. The impact, there is impact on the ground, as in now we have so many programs happening. We have the free school, Ubuntu Free School, which is what many people know about. and it's a school from kindergarten to grade 6 with about 93 students, and it's community run. It's run by the families, and children learn a wide range of things: culture, music, marimba, farming, justice, being in community, like dreaming, technology. We also happen to have computers and have Wi-Fi in rural Zimbabwe.
Wow.
But in addition to that, we also have other programs. We have a young women's program intended to support women in responding to the challenges of living in a patriarchal society. And that includes just building self-awareness, building awareness of their own power and agency, and also learning about practical things around sexual health, emotional health, mental health, and getting support for their education. So a lot of them are in high school. They get support with school subjects. And we have a program for other women. We do farming and education around food and health, because Zimbabwe right now is going through a food crisis, not a food crisis, but a health crisis, where folks are so dependent on sugar. People drink a lot of tea, thanks to the British. But you know, but it's not like tea, a small cup. It's people actually treat tea like food.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
With
So
tons of sugar and milk.
oh, it's so bad, and the rates of diabetes, the rates of high blood pressure are rising, and people are dying, right? And so the purpose is to really learn around art, community building, and food. And we can also see the impact around the world. Like, we have a good presence on social media. We have accounts on Facebook that have followers. I mean, not like thousands of followers, but they are followers that are engaged. I also, because I'm located here in North America and I'm an educator, I travel around. So I go to universities in the US to talk about Ubuntu philosophy from that practical standpoint, sharing the lessons that we are learning in the work that we're doing at Ubuntu. I teach music, Mbira music specifically. I tell stories. And because of that, people have gone to visit Ubuntu to go learn from the US, from Canada, from Japan, from India. So it has become this international hub for cultural exchange, and just learning. Some people are just like, oh, I like carpentry. I'm like, okay, you'll go there, there's a carpenter, you can support with carpentry, right? Someone goes like, oh, I want to learn about, what was, someone wanted to learn about mushrooms. They love mushrooms. I'm like, okay, we have this land where mushrooms grow naturally. So
Yeah.
if you go at this particular time of the year, you can go and learn about mushrooms in that specific location.
Wow.
So it has become this global learning hub.
That's incredible.
I think
How,
like
sorry, go ahead,
sorry,
Adrienne.
no, I think it's like really, those ideas of like really building on what's there and what is like your own like cultural heritage is so powerful, and all the knowledge that's there that gets lost like when like through colonialism,
Yeah. Generally, like, I believe in change. My PhD is really about social change. And I read a lot about social movements. And what I learned from that is change is a result of what people do, right? What some people call knowledge practices. It's ideas that are confirmed by actions.
Yeah, so it's like walking the walk. Like that's what I found really
Exactly.
powerful with you and at Ubuntu. It's like walking the walk, whatever that is, talking the talk. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. Walking the talk. And yeah, and even when you so I'm gonna get a little bit philosophical here. So when you look at the world, the world is shaped by ideas and practices that are internalized by people, right? And those ideas could be spread by just the sheer force of power and oppression. We see that. I was reading Kipling's poem, The White Man's Burden.
Mm.
And it's fascinating to see the thinking at that point around, oh, we're going to go to the world and civilize people. And those people might actually reject us, but we've got to keep on doing it because that is our burden, right? Sort of the gaslighting in the colonization process.
that's interesting.
It's
Yeah.
quite wild. And so those colonial ideas still exist. That is why
Oh, yeah.
most Zimbabweans are Christian. That
Mhm.
is why most Zimbabweans prefer to drink tea, right? Instead of indigenous drinks like maheu, right? But change can also happen through the sharing of and of stories and practices that are positive. And that is what inspires us. And that's what I learned from Ubuntu philosophy, which is also in the name Ubuntu Learning Village. And Ubuntu philosophy says that I am because you are, right? And you are because we are. Your existence is only possible because I am also a part of it. And I am working to make sure that you continue to exist. We are dependent on each other. We have a responsibility towards each other. And those kind of stories are the ones that I want to share, but I don't want just to talk about it. I want to do the work and share stories of how that philosophy, that lens is actually practical and it is transforming lives.
I love that. How can people watching this, if they would like to get involved with Ubuntu Village or learn more about, where do they find you? On Instagram? Do you have a website?
We have a website.
Okay.
They can email me directly.
Okay.
But Ubuntu Learning Village, right? It's the
Yeah, Ubuntu Learning Village at gmail.com or my personal email, Rainos at gmail.com. Maybe I'll just send that to you and
Yeah,
put
yeah,
it away. Yeah, yeah. I think we have. How do I characterize this? We have a medicine that can support the healing of the world in this moment. And the medicine is in the way that we do the work that we do, and the community, the way that we build community. The medicine is also in the philosophy that our humanity, um, is the collective identity that makes our individuality possible. So as opposed to forefronting the individual, we forefront the fact that you are me and I am you. There's an inner being that cannot be changed, right? And the reason why we see sometimes all these wars and separation and oppression is because I think there's a forgetting of that.
and a dehumanization
And a dehumanization.
focusing on humanity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many ideas you know, they were so subtle to try and put in the film. You know what I mean? Even like the exchange, like you're saying, when you're with your dad with the tomatoes and you're telling him how what you learned in Canada about how to grow tomatoes
I love that
that
scene.
you learned from him. You know, those things are, oh, I'm so glad you pick up on those things because they're
Yeah.
subtle, but I think
Yeah.
a lot of these ideas we're trying to get in there through
Mm.
in these subtle ways, you know?
No, 100%. Even the scene where you're in the vegetable garden and you talk about it's a small thing, but like just the connection to nature, humankind's connection to nature, and how when you're living in an urban environment, when it's raining, it becomes almost an annoyance. But when you are in the village, in like so much closer to nature, and the fact that you need it for survival actually so directly, how
Yeah.
important and wonderful the rain becomes
Yeah.
to you. Like little things like that just makes this film so touching and moving, especially for people who have left their home country to come and live in a very urban city
Mhm.
environment far away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was,
it's true.
yeah. Well, I think that is our time. Unfortunately, I could keep talking to you both all day. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time and for
Oh, thanks,
sharing all of
Marie.
this with us.
Yeah. And just keep the dialogue going.
Yes, I would love to. I would love to, since we're all in Toronto, actually. Um, I just want to finish by saying that the South African Film Festival in Canada can be viewed online from the 6th to the 17th November 2025. And yeah, I'm very excited for the lineup and I hope everybody enjoys it. And thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Thanks, Marie. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marie, and thanks to Education Without Borders for making this happen.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.